Hello, and welcome to the Argyle CFO Summit Evolution of Finance. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our esteemed speaker. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat, and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our speaker, Jonathan Dean, Senior Director, Finance Center of Excellence, SAP. We're super excited to have Jonathan with us for a thought leadership presentation titled Top 5 Considerations for Finance. Welcome, Jonathan. Over to you.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. As Nick mentioned, I'm John Dean. I'm part of SAP's Finance Center of Excellence, where I holistically advise large corporations and smaller organizations around SAP's finance capabilities. But I've been implementing AI solutions and working with industry leaders in this space since about 2014. So I'm very passionate about our topic today. And so for today's discussion, we'll be talking about the guidelines for the development and exploration of AI, the technologies that we commonly refer to as AI, existing use cases, evolving use cases of AI for finance departments, and how to get started with AI in finance. Now, first off, let's go back to guidelines and talk about this at a marketplace strategic level. AI is rapidly accelerating in the marketplace and very frequently getting adopted by many organizations across the world. There was a former McKinsey study that said that AI would introduce over 2.6 to almost $4.4 trillion of incremental value to the economy. So AI has substantial potential for large organizations to exceed and meet their goals, as well as be more competitive in the marketplace. And if you look at this, almost a third of companies today are using AI in some fashion of their business. 40% of organizations are looking to increase investment in AI due to recent advances in the space. And lastly, 60% of organizations are looking to adopt and leverage generative AI for their use cases. But it's important, as this continues to accelerate and grow in the industry, let's remember that there are certain things and guardrails that every company should look to adhere to as you go down your AI journey. First off, we need to make sure that your AI solutions are relevant for your business processes. Many times newer technology gets introduced into the marketplace, and companies try to figure out, how can I, deploy this for your organization? And sometimes it's not the right fit, or it's not really particularly relevant for your business function. So as you go through and explore artificial intelligence applications, it needs to be relevant for your organization in terms of meeting your objectives and goals. Secondly, we need to make sure that your AI solution is reliable. Now, this is a very commonly understood problem with many of the generative AI solutions out there, where you can ask a generative AI solution a question and what it spits out may or may not be true. But from a finance and a business perspective, we need it to be more than that. We need it to be true. We need it to be consistent, and it needs to be better than a human in terms of how reliable that it performs its specific function. And lastly, we need to make sure that AI is responsible. So there are a lot of ethical considerations for artificial intelligence, as well as how that affects us from a culture, as well as from a talent perspective. But even from a finance and business perspective, we need to make sure that this is being compliant with local regulations, that there are no legal challenges as well, and that as we go through our AI development journey, we're using it in a very responsible fashion. So if you are going down the path of an artificial intelligence transformation for your finance organization, in order to get your real business results, we encourage you to make sure that any AI solutions you're looking at are relevant for your business and the processes which you're looking to improve, that it's reliable, and that you can consistently count on it to execute the activities that you've assigned to it. And then lastly, that you're doing so in a responsible manner and making sure that the artificial intelligence that you're adopting is responsible and compliant. Now let's talk a little bit more about the technologies that make up AI. Now, artificial intelligence is really an umbrella of different types of technologies. And commonly, when we talk about AI, we're really referring to things like advanced analytics, like statistical modeling. We're referring to process automation, where we're taking a RPA, robotic process automation, or a workflow technology to take tasks and repetitively execute them. We're talking about machine learning, which is historical algorithms that kind of define probability or do calculations based off of your historical data. Natural language processing, which is the absorption of text or language or voice recognition technology, as well as pushing that back out to an end user. And then generative AI technology, which we'll talk about at length. Now, it's important to note that many solutions in the marketplace that you'll find are actually combinations of different tools or different types of AIs. And I'll give an example of that in just a minute. But it's important to note artificial intelligence is going to continue to evolve, and the tools themselves are improving, but also the use cases are expanding with time. And one of our peers at the global COE at SAP has a very nice quote about this, is that right now, this is the worst generative AI will ever be. It's only going to improve from here. So as we think about the capabilities of AI, this is only going to get better with time. These are still, some of these may be evolving, some of these are very mature solutions at time, but they're only going to improve and get more accessible to end users with time. Now let's talk about the approach of how companies address AI and how do they, what does that actually mean? So, as a foundation, no company will ever be all things AI. So at SAP, we take an open ecosystem approach where we partner with many of the largest players in the artificial intelligence space. And that's because different companies will specialize and offer different values to artificial intelligence, whether or not you're working with a Snowflake or a Databricks or a similar company where you really want to have large data sets and mine that information for your artificial intelligence solutions. Maybe it's a Microsoft, for example, which may have a Copilot solution that can sit on top of your Windows operations. We're partnering with each of these different companies in different ways to help augment the user experience for our customer base, and encourage you to explore all these offerings and make sure that you're learning what's available in the marketplace, as each company will tend to specialize in different things. Secondly, there's bolt-on technology, where we're going to add value to existing technology using additional functional benefits to from artificial intelligence. So you may have a core system or a core application today. What we're going to do is add additional AI components on top of that. Maybe it's machine learning, maybe it's process robotics, etc. But it's really going to be an additive function. You're seeing many core technologies across the board have embedded AI capabilities. Now, this is the case with SAP, where many of our core platforms, such as our core ERP product, our business network solution, or our HR solutions, actually have AI embedded in them in various ways or fashion. And then lastly, you're seeing generative AI really kind of start being embedded across all of these different functions, where it's really going to be a co-pilot that augments how you work and how you interact with your financial systems landscape. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. Now let's talk about some specific use cases for AI in the marketplace. Now, it's important to note when we talk about AI, let's bring it back in the context of a finance professional. So finance can mean a lot of different things if you're familiar with the finance area. When we have our ERP platform, we may be doing things like accounts payable. We may be doing receivables, AR type functions. We might be managing royalties, subscriptions, or recurring revenue. We may be in the tax, treasury, or even in the compliance space. All of these different activities transact against your general ledger and then kind of form the foundation for your consolidated financials and by extension, your FP&A activity. So you might be doing things like your core financial planning for expense planning or capital expenditure planning, but by extension, you might be working with other types of corporate planning activities such as marketing planning, sales and operations planning, supply chain planning, workforce planning, all of these different elements. And these are all just core functional benefits of a modern ERP platform. But let's talk about how AI augments this. Now, very commonly in the marketplace, we see advanced analytics augment the enterprise planning capabilities. So using statistical modeling as well as visualization capabilities to augment existing FP&A processes. We're seeing things like machine learning enhance the receivables process and your AR process holistically. Natural language processing, as well as object character recognition, which is a form of AI, is enhancing your payables process, such as ingesting invoices using visualization technology to read PDFs and then transform that into data, which can then be consumed by your core ERP. And then lastly, we have process robotic automation, which can enhance different functions that tend to be laborious or repetitive in nature. And we'll go through an example of each of these. So for advanced analytics, we have our visualization solution where you might be looking at things like P&L, you may be looking at revenue, you may be looking at analyzing virtually any specific process. And you're really going to be using visualization and statistical modeling to define this. But this is also a great example of where we can combine different types of AI to get better insights for our business. So whether or not I might be looking at P&L or the revenue for an organization, I may want to click into that and actually see, well, what's making up that figure? And using natural language generation, natural language processing, I can take the statistical model behind this and define, well, what are the top regions that contribute to my revenue for a particular quarter or for a particular time set? So I might see that it's region, or I might see what are the top products that make up my revenue. And I can simply derive insights based off of this using statistical modeling as well as natural language generation to give this back to me in a format that I can easily consume and then prepare for a presentation to my peer group. Another example where we're leveraging AI's technology is machine learning for the AR space, as I mentioned before. So cash application is a very time-consuming process for most organizations. It requires a lot of manual effort and deep diving into different types of documents to understand how do the payments that I've received from the bank match up with my open receivables from my customers. And so what SAP can do using machine learning is that we can mine your historical activity of payments, invoices, payment advices, run that through a machine learning algorithm, and then propose or automatically match your open AR from a GL perspective against that payment history. And so this greatly expedites the AR process for many organizations. And we've seen companies that, used to have an automated matching rate of almost 60%, get up to 95, 97% automatically matching from an AR perspective. And this frees up your resources to do things that are more value added as well as less transactional in nature. Another technology that is commonly deployed is robotic process automation. So RPA technology has been around for quite some time, and I would say it's probably the most mature or most widely dispersed type of AI technology in the marketplace today. And one of the reasons for that is that it can very quickly be set up and deployed to start giving you consistent results and remove laborious activities from your finance organization. So really, AI process automation can be used for a number of different use cases, and it's very specific to your organization, but SAP has some pre-built RPA solutions that companies can leverage, such as using process robotic automation to improve intercompany reconciliation, to take general ledger uploads and get them into the system in a more consistent manner, or maybe to do bank statement reconciliation activities. All these different types of use cases essentially drill back into taking unstructured information, structuring that in a consistent manner, and doing a task with that information, such as uploading it to the system, distributing a report, or executing a job. We'll also talk about these aren't really necessarily new technologies. So if you look at SAP holistically in our own back office, we're a large 30 billion revenue company that operates globally. We have our own back office operations, and we've been using AI solutions, our own AI solutions in our own back office for a number of years now. And this is just a kind of a wheel of different use cases of AI across our back office. But even in our own finance function, we use AI for business integrity screening to understand, who we're doing business with. We're using machine learning for goods and invoice receipt matching or intercompany matching and reconciliation. We talked about the cash application use case. There's even more in terms of invoice processing, as well as executive use cases, executive analytics that we didn't have a chance to talk about today. Now, let's talk about the evolving use cases of AI in finance. Now, generative AI is a technology we commonly we may all be familiar with ChatGPT technology, but for SAP, we have our own generative AI solution called Joule. And the real objective of this is to improve the intelligence in which we communicate with our business peers in the marketplace, whether or not it's customers or vendors or even other employees, as well as with our financial systems landscape. And I'm going to talk you through one of the existing use cases that we have for generative AI at SAP. Now, going back to invoice to cash processes, AR is something that is a high focus right now for many organizations, as we want to accelerate cash into our organization so that we can free up working capital to invest in other things. And one of the ways that we can use technology to help accelerate cash into our organization is by helping it capture communications with our customers, documenting those communications, as well as helping resolve any disputes or any challenges or any sort of considerations that go along with that customer engagement. So traditionally, I'm going to have an AR inbox for my organization. I'm going to have an email inbox where my customers can send emails to me to talk about orders, disputes, etc. So we can have a generative AI solution read the contents of an email and then start to analyze that to make it ready for consumption by my AR team. So I can have that AI solution basically define the status of that email. Is it a higher priority item that I need to take care of quickly? Is it a lower priority item? What is the sentiment of that email? Is it positive, negative, or other? I can have that generative AI summarize the content of that email in a nice bulleted fashion, as well as categorize that based off of different types of categories that I've defined. In most cases, this may be a dispute, for example, categorize what the dispute was and what type of dispute it was. And then I can also define whether or not I want the AI to actually generate a dispute within my core application automatically, or have it propose a reply back to me. So once that AI has absorbed that information, not only can my AR analyst kind of easily define, prioritize their email correspondence, read the summary, as well as how it was categorized, the AI solution can then interact with my core application and then enter in all the details necessary, such as creating a dispute in our system, so I can track and make sure I'm managing that dispute appropriately and improve the quality of how I'm engaging with my customer. And this will go directly from your email inbox directly into your core ERP platform. And then to help you engage and resolve any disputes, you can actually engage with Joule as a co-pilot solution in the marketplace, where you can ask it questions like, what is my priority? What are the next steps? Can you give me information? Can you propose a reply back to the customer around, can you just generate a script that I can send back that I've statistically modeled to make it more successful at helping resolve that dispute? So we've gone from helping ingest the customer contents of that email to engaging with your core application to actually help you document and actually take do some transactional work on, and then actually helping you resolve that dispute. And this is just at its infancy. Going back to that earlier quote, this is the worst it will ever be. It's only going to improve from here. And essentially what that means is that, we commonly over the past of my 10 years, I've commonly referred to AI as a tool in your toolbox that you can use to enhance your finance processes. But that idiom is changing right now. Essentially, where we're going to is having AI solutions change how you engage with your finance processes. How are you going to work day to day? You're not simply going to be engaging with the user interface. You're going to be engaging with a solution like Joule to go say, hey, go process a receivable or go process these invoices for me, versus having you interact with the solution. So the nature of what we're doing is starting to change, and that's generally because of these evolving technologies. Now, lastly, we're going to talk about getting started with AI in finance. Now, your finance organization, really your CFO and your C-suite, are going to define your priorities, but then you have different levers on how you execute those priorities. Do I need better insights into my data? Do I need to be more efficient and be more labor conscious in terms of how I'm spending my time? Or do I need better compliance and standardization across the organization? Those are all different levers that I can pull. And where do we apply them in terms of your scope of finance really determines based off of your specific needs. So I encourage you to work with SAP or any of your consulting partners to kind of lay out a functional scope of finance, where you need to improve, how do you need to improve? And from there, we can kind of heat map where do you need to improve, and then what types of technologies of those different types of AI will help you resolve those challenges that you have in place today. And this can often be a journey. It doesn't need to be a one and done type of things. You can often start with one capability and then expand from there over time into different use cases, especially as you get more mature in your AI journey. So with that, we have a couple questions coming in. So how can CFOs and finance teams effectively navigate the rapid evolution of AI technologies? That's a great question. I think one of the things is partnering with companies like SAP, for example, is a great start. We're one of the largest and oldest AI software companies in the world, and we've been using AI for a number of years. So as there continues to be innovation, we will be there with you as your core ERP platform provider to help you navigate either the rapid changes in AI, either through our own solutions or in the partner ecosystem that we talked about before, and advise you on how do those different ecosystem players like Microsoft, Databricks, etc., how are they changing their solutions, and how does that impact us from an SAP standpoint? And then what are the ethical and regulatory considerations that must be addressed when developing AI applications in finance? So ethical considerations can be wide-ranging depending on the type of function in the finance space. The regulatory considerations often depend on what country you're operating in and where you're actually having that finance activity occur. Regulations will vary drastically between the US, Europe, and APAC, for example, in terms of AI, what it can and can't do, as well as what types of information you can leverage for generating AI models. And I would encourage you to work with your technology vendors to understand if there's any legal implications for using that technology. What are the emerging use cases for AI in finance that hold the greatest promise for competitive advantage? That's a great question. It will vary based off of your industry as well as your business model. We're seeing that companies are rapidly changing their business models to be more competitive in the marketplace. This is especially true coming out of the pandemic, as the way we work, the way we buy, and the way we interact with each other has greatly changed over the past few years. And so, generally speaking, generative AI will be a very compelling technology to invest in. But it's important to note that this is still a rapidly evolving technology. So it's certainly the use cases and how it makes your organization more competitive will continue to change over the next few years. How do you envision AI transforming the financial analyst role in the future? That's a great question. So for financial analysts, normally you're going to be doing a lot of ticking and tying information to make sure that they're matching, that the information has integrity, to make sure that you understand the contents and how that was generated. With the introduction of automation and better traceability from your summarized financial information from your to the transactional line item detail. You're seeing that AI can also help you not only have more confidence in the information that's available, but also accelerate the ability for you to generate those financial results. And going back to that earlier example, normally I would go into my general ledger system, pull up download a spreadsheet into Excel, model it out, change that contents, and then upload it into a visualization tool or maybe PowerPoint and basically model out what I want to present. But essentially, from a financial analyst perspective, I can log on to an analytics solution, look at the metrics, be able to drill down back into my source system, as well as generate what are the top insights or things that I should be considering when I look at these different financial metrics, whether or not it's P&L related, balance sheet related, whether or not it's functionally processed, like I'm going to look at my credit rating from an AR perspective. All of this type of information is getting mined and analyzed from a statistical perspective to help you get you richer insights into the underlying data. What measures are necessary to protect sensitive financial data used in AI models? Well, once again, there are different technologies will have different mechanisms to manage the AI and also to give you guardrails around what data is being used. And so to generate those insights. Now, generative AI is probably the one where this has the most ethical and legal constraints, where companies have basically, combed the internet to identify every bit of openly available information to help that build their generative AI model, their language model for their solution. What we're seeing corporations do is kind of create their own private instance of that, where there might be some pre-built content that you take on, and then you're basically empowering that generative AI technology with the data that's relevant and specific to your organization that you own specifically. And that way you're kind of eliminating the possibility of leveraging something that's out there that's either incorrect, that's not legal for you to have, but also you're making sure that you're using all the data that's relevant for your organization. Now, there are some security considerations that go into that. Like if I go into a generative AI solution or a chat assistant, for example, and I ask it what my supervisor's work compensation package is, that's not necessarily something that's ethical or should be allowed. So there's a lot of guardrails that need to be put in place when you start thinking about generative AI technology going forward. What are the potential risks of relying on AI in decision-making processes, and how can they be mitigated? Once again, you really want to have good traceability from how the AI constructed the insights that it's giving you down to the line item detail. And one of the things that's nice about SAP solutions, like the advanced analytics solution that I have available right here, is that you can actually drill back into the actual core system and actually see all of the line items that make up that information on the screen. So different companies have different mechanisms to either explain how the models are generated, where the source information came from, or what transformations occurred to that data. Part of this is part of the implementation process, part of leveraging the tools that are available, as well as the features that your vendor offers. So I think we've only had 30 minutes today, so hopefully this was a nice primer, or at least a nice session for you to get exposed to artificial intelligence. If there's any other questions on the line, please let me know. I'm happy to take additional questions.
Great. And thank you again, Jonathan, for such an incredible keynote. And I want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. As a reminder, please be sure to check out the prizes and raffle rules section to see how you can earn points for the chance to win one of several prizes. Our next session will begin at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, which will be a thought leadership titled AP Automation at Arby's, the CFO's secret ingredient for growth. Please click on the join button that will appear on your screen to be redirected to the next session, and we look forward to seeing you there.